Good evening and welcome in Truth Talks family and Bring the Funk family. I got a question for you. You know how a lot of older Black people are like afraid to go to the doctor, and you tell them they got to go to the doctor, but they say things like, but Tuskegee, but the way we've been screwed by doctors as Black people forever. That sense that we are not going to be trusted when we go into the hospital is deep within our community. And it makes a lot of us not want to go to the doctor. And it creates very deep health problems for our entire community. I want to dig into all of that with the Truth Talks All-Stars today. Plus, Wendy Williams' husband comes through with a lawsuit that is attacking everybody. He's trying to get her out. Let's find out what's going on. Hey, it's Truth Talks. Let's go.
Are y'all ready to roll? Let's go.
All right, Truth Tellers, it's the show that asks and answers questions nobody else will even dare to tackle. I'm here with three of my favorite people. Dr. Cheyenne Bryan, how are you?
What's going on, Torre? Your C3T3 curls is popping today. You did your thing this morning with the curls. What's going on, Truth Tellers? We're not going to talk about Torre's curls today. We're going to talk about things that are much more important than that. So let's get into it.
What could be more important than my hair? Oh, your hair maniac's hair, which is also looking beautiful this morning. Congrats on that. Dimitri Wiley's in the house with no hair. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here. No hair and all. Just grateful to be a part of this Truth Talk cast where we can inform the public in such a soft tone. We don't even curse on this show. No, there's no negative language.
You curse every week. I like that Dimitri looks like he's in an expensive home. Very nice. Very nicely done there. Nice.
Upgraded.
And speaking of expensive homes from Southern California, Judge Lauren Lake is beaming. Are you coming from a mansion in Beverly Hills? Because all the law degrees make it look like there's probably a mansion behind you.
And her Emmy Award.
I am not, but I am coming live from my office.
But what's around the office? How much square footage? Is it 20,000? Is it 30,000? Just give me a number.
Enough for me to live my limitless life, Teray.
I love that answer. I love that answer for you. Next time I come to California, I'm going to find out. I'm going to bring my tape measure and I'm going to find out, Cheyenne. I'm going to let you know. Let's go into trending truth. Number one story is big. The icon, the former talk show host, a friend of this show, Truth Talks, Wendy Williams, one of the greatest broadcasters of her generation, is at the center of a bombshell guardianship lawsuit. Her ex-husband, Kevin Hunter, filed a $250 million federal complaint against her court-appointed guardian, the judge in her case, Wells Fargo, her assisted living facility, multiple advisors. I think Dr. Cheyenne Bryan has mentioned this. Maybe she's trying to free Wendy once and for all. She's not really talking about Dr. B. I mean, he's firing at everybody to try to save Wendy. Lauren, Kevin Hunter has gotten a lot of criticism in this era of Wendy when she's sort of been away from the mic, away from the stage. But in this moment, he seems to have a chance to go from scandal mongerer or villain in this to the hero. What do you think is going on here?
From scandal to savior, or is it just him being selfish, right? A lot of people are questioning his motives behind this, considering the fact that this original kind of mental breakdown, the trouble she was having, stemmed from him having a child out of wedlock. That really is what people say started this. And so it almost seems like an eerie full circle that he would be the one filing this suit. Now, he says he's doing it on behalf of their son. They do have a son together, and that we cannot change. And that is very true. We've also heard many people over the last couple of years shouting free Wendy, and with the, this entanglement, this legal entanglement she's in between her guardian and the bank and everything they're recommending. And I mean, you see these videos of her at the window knocking. She's been able to do a couple of interviews, but then it seems like she gets in trouble for doing that. I sat down last night and was thinking to myself, well, who will be able to get her out of this, right? Isn't it kind of almost an unlikely savior? But then if she gets out of it, we're trying to figure out who will be in control then? They say she can make her own decisions. Well, can she? Is she lawyered up enough? And then to top it all off, last point, as I'm reading about this, I see that she then comes out and says, I don't have nothing to do with this. Wendy's like,
Wow.
This has nothing to do with me. I'm not in on this suit. And so there's a lot going on here, and I'm excited to continue to learn more. He's kind of coming in under legally what they call the next friends status, where they say there's no one who can represent an incapacitated person. And so I need to step in and do this. And he's suing for a lot of compensatory damages, almost over 200 million, 250 million. So this is going to be interesting to watch.
Doc, this is a crazy situation, especially for me. I mean, like, a tri-state area New Yorker. I remember Wendy as a radio legend. She could do 3 or 4 hours on the radio by herself, no co-host. And it was incredible. I was on her show twice. And that was incredible. You know what she used to do? When you walk out the show, especially as a man, and you would leave and she would talk about your body. And I'm leaving and she's like, oh, so nice to watch you walk away. And she's objectifying you. But the way that she was as like the fun auntie who got messy, it was like, oh, Wendy's objectifying me. Like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'll go with her. But to see her get to this position now in her life where she can't talk and she doesn't have legal control is incredibly sad. And it's even worse than the people know. We have a Truth Talks exclusive, some breaking news. We know that security guards at the facility that she's been at, the mental health facility she's been at, have been taking advantage of her by photographing her topless and trying to sell the photographs to TMZ and other sort of brokers like that. And this is horrifying. It's disgusting. It's illegal. It's immoral. It's ridiculous. You wonder how that could happen in a facility where they're supposed to be taking care of you. How a Black woman could be treated like this in any situation, whether or not she's famous. Just how could anybody have this happen to them?
Yeah, first of all, Wendy's an OG. Wendy's a legend, just to echo your sentiments. Second of all, Kevin been scamming and dogging Wendy from the beginning of times that I can even remember. He's been suing this woman. He has been taking money from Wendy. He has been so mistrusted. And so to have somebody out of all people come this late in the game of her health disparity and condition and say, hey, I want to sue every single person from Wells Fargo to Sabrina, to the facility, to the person taking care of her, to the security guard at the front, to the person who drove her from facility to facility, whoever has some money that I can tap into, I want to sue. This is the same man who's been money hungry with Wendy since day one. And so do I trust him? First of all, I don't believe him. I don't trust him. And I really think that Wendy needs to reverse Uno and sue his ass, because Kevin has been the one, in my opinion, who has psychologically put so much strain, seriously, and so much stress on Wendy that we all know that stress causes health conditions. I'm not saying he is the cause. I'm saying he has been a contributor to the cause of a lot of her breakdowns and a lot of her addiction, a lot of the things that she's going through. And he has not been a supportive husband. So again, in my opinion, Kevin is the last person that needs to be suing. He needs to be the person being sued. And I really, really hope that they don't allow him to get away with this, because we know that one thing for sure, he is going to have his hands all in the cookie jar. If any of these lawsuits go through, Kevin is going to benefit more than anybody when it comes to the financial, monetary space of it. And he's not going to lend one hand, as he hasn't, to the medical care and the care of Wendy. He's just not. He can care less.
It's a really smart point that he's not doing this to save her because he cares about her. He's doing this to save her because this is where the money is now. Before, the money was in her being on stage and on the mic. Now the money is in suing other people to rescue her. And I hadn't...
Let me be clear, Torrey, hold on. He's not trying to save her at all. That's what I want to make sure my point is. There is no saving of her. This is all a selfish act of, I see an opportunity where I can get money from a woman who is getting neglected healthcare wise, and through her health, her healthcare providers. And let me see how I can come in here and profit off of somebody's demise. A woman who not only was your wife, but this is a mother of your child. And you have no problem being an opportunist with her at her demise. That is just sick.
I think Demetri, I think she's absolutely right as far as the motivation that she's seeing in Kevin. That fits the person we have seen throughout this Wendy saga. Demetri, what do you think?
You know, the thing about it is I'm gonna have to play a little devil's advocate on this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's keep it honest. The question becomes, did she have more or less problems when Kevin wasn't the gatekeeper? You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't saying he was perfect. I'm not saying the guy was perfect to no degree. I know he did his dirt. He had the baby situation. You know, relations and love and marriage and all those things can get very sticky sometimes. But like, she was sharp when he was in the picture. She was getting that bag. She was on TV every day. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying the brother did the best thing, but he at least kept the wolves back. And I think that's something, you know, to acknowledge. I think that it's a lot of money on the table. I think at any time you mix a lot of money into anything, it can always look like you're trying to come up. 250,000, you know, 250 billion, half a billion is a fuck ton of money, a lot of money.
There he is. There it is. There's
I'm sorry. It slipped out, Tori. Not no more. But maybe Kevin ain't the hero we want, but maybe Kevin's the hero.
Lauren, Demetri makes me think about how quite often our husband is the worst person in a woman's life. And she may not realize it, and it may not pop out every single day. But when you step back, you're like, you have been the one holding me back. You have been the one getting my way. Is this another example of that?
You can't deny they built an empire together. That's undeniable. You can't deny that. And we used to hear countless stories about him kind of being that handler. And I don't mean in a criminal way. I'm talking about just the person that managed things, kept people at bay so that she could be the great entertainer that she is and still she was and still is. So I do think there's something to be said. I also think having a child together, right? You create this empire. You want that empire to be passed down or the fruits of it to at least her one heir, which is her son. And so I think the argument that her son is still there, she would want her son to be taken care of. She loves her son despite whatever issues they may have been through. It's a very complicated situation. And look, as a person who has dealt with family issues for over the last 3 decades, to Demetri's point, they're complex, right? And sometimes the hero we need in a certain situation is not the hero we want. The problem is that if he gets her from this hurdle, right? If there's movement and we get her released from this, as he said, this bondage, this unlawful bondage that she's in, who protects her then? And does he have the same? I can see Dr. B saying, and I don't think so either. And that's where I think, Teray, your question is so, I don't know, it almost gets, it has me feeling sick in the pit of my stomach, because I look at a woman and one of the most poignant things she said, as we saw her in moments of clarity over this past year, she says, it could happen to you. She said it on that documentary. Just know, to every woman out here, this could happen to you. And as a woman out here with one son, I align so much with Wendy in the years she's had in this business. I've worked on her show, been a guest on her show many times. It is scary. It is absolutely scary that in a moment of weakness, everything you work for can be taken away from you. Others can be controlling your destiny. And you say to yourself, okay, the only person I have potentially that's fighting to save me is my ex-husband. But as I said, I'm reading that she's saying I have nothing to do with that, and I don't want him involved in my affairs in that way. And so there's that.
That detail that she doesn't know or she's not participating goes to what Dr. B is talking about he's doing this on his own, not to save her, but to enrich himself. And if she gets saved or out of the trouble, whatever, then that's a side benefit.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So I want to move on to our politicking segment and bring in a friend of the show and an important person for this conversation, Gerald Griggs, president of the Georgia NAACP, great attorney. You've been on the show with us before, so you know the deal. For the first time in 116 years, the NAACP will not invite a sitting president to its national convention, which is July 12th to 16th, Demetri. It's in Charlotte. If you want to go, not far for you. I think it's actually a really good idea to go and see what's going on with the NAACP right now. The reason they say they're not inviting Trumpy, as if they have to give black people a reason, is because he's a threat to civil rights. Yeah, no kidding. Has the NAACP finally drawn the line, or are they a little late on this? Dr. B, I did feel like the NAACP has not been the strong stance, it's not taken the strong stance against Trump that I would want. Where are they?
Yeah, welcome, Gerald, my NAACP brother, wherever he is. I'm president, as you know, of LA, San Pedro, Wilmington, Palos Verdes here for the past 12 years. It's been an honor to work with us. So welcome back to the show. We had an emergency meeting, National did. I'm not sure if you were on that call, where they prepped us and let us know that we are not inviting Big T to the cookout. He's not invited to the convention. And I love that you said, Torre, that we don't need a reason, because we don't. Black people don't. We just do what we do, and it is what it is, especially as the biggest civil rights organization in the world. But I don't think that NAACP is just finally drawing the line. We were created 116 years ago because we've been drawing lines, because we've been creating legislation, because we've been standing on the front line, because we've been standing vertical in who we are and what we believe, and not just for Black rights, but for human rights. We have pushed and gotten a lot of rights right for a lot of people that look like us and don't look like us. And that's one thing about our organization. I just feel like at this point, we have yet to have a president that is this overtly racist in your face, to where this man is literally dissipating and declining. He just took out Martin Luther King's statue from the main office of the Oval Office and put it somewhere else in the back office. So what we're saying is we don't have the Senate, we don't have Congress, we don't have Supreme Court, but what we do have is organizations like NAACP, and we do have to do what we can. And with the Dems not being in a position of having muscle, this is where organizations like us do stand up and say the muscle that we do have, that isn't red or blue, it's just about human rights and civil rights, is a muscle that we're going to stand on and we're going to flex. And we are going to make sure that we do not open the door to let you know that you can use us, our organization, as a way to have an opportunity to push your agenda, because we're not selling your agenda, we're not for your agenda, and we can give a fuck about your agenda. So you're not even invited to the cookout. We're good.
She makes a great point about why we all hate Trump and why he should not come. But I think the other side of that, the real side of that for me is, okay, where is the NAACP in an incredibly important, historically, organization for Black people? And we wonder if the modern NAACP is prepared to deal with a threat like this. And we can argue all day to the choir about how bad he is. But is your organization nationally and in Georgia strong enough and prepared to deal with the threat we have right now?
Absolutely. And I stand firmly behind the decision that was made by President Derek Johnson and the board to disinvite President Trump. This isn't the first time that we've actually invited him. We invited him in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Well, because we want to make sure that we have a robust conversation with the White House. And as we was just stated a few minutes ago, there was an emergency call to outline the reasons. And the very reason is he is a consummate threat to civil rights. This is the man who tried to erase Medgar Evers. This is the man who tried to erase Harriet Tubman. This is the man who just a few days ago removed the bust of Dr. King. This is the man in his first few weeks in the White House issued an executive order on DEI, trying to take out Black history, Black excellence, Black everything. And so for the NAACP, to answer your question, is it prepared? Yes, we've been prepared for 116 years. We've dealt with far worse than this president. But what we're not going to do is give him a platform to Black America, to minority communities, to speak directly to them when he's done nothing for them. So the NAACP, yes, we are prepared for this moment. We've been litigating in the Supreme Court for the last year against this president.
But what are you doing? You've removed his platform. Great. You should, but he has a platform every day. What is the NAACP doing for Black people in the face of Trump, besides not giving him this platform?
Well, we're litigating cases in the Supreme Court right now. In Georgia, we just won a Supreme Court case in the state of Georgia to remove the the Georgia Elections Commission's rules that were unconstitutional. We just won that about 2 weeks ago. So each and every state conference, each and every unit is fighting in their communities. At the national level, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. They are suing in Memphis to prevent Elon Musk from continuing to pollute the community. We are suing on birthright citizenship. We are suing over and over and over again. And then we're marching, we're protesting, we're advocating on the local, state, and national level. So we're doing a lot. Many of those actions don't get the media coverage that Donald Trump does, but I would stand on this. The NAACP has been here before Donald Trump. The NAACP will be here after Donald Trump, and the Black community will be in a better place because of the decision we made to disinvite him.
Come on, Gerald.
Lauren, let's talk about the NAACP, because it's been same question. It's been an incredibly important historic organization. I'm wondering, are they able to deal with the tactics and the war that we have right now with Donald Trump?
You know, my thought is this. I commend the statement, right? That means that, listen, you're not for us, so don't come be with us, basically. I do then have the follow-up question. If we now cut him off, right? Keep our protests going, all of our lawsuits, you're doing what you do. If we ever, do we feel like we'll never need to have his ear? Never have, is the reversing of that lack of access going to come back to bite us if and when we need it? If we need to get to the table to say, listen, we need to address something with you.
Lauren, when would you trust him as an honest broker?
I would never. I'm just merely asking a question. Since we have the experts on, I'm asking the questions that I think people might want to know, right? If there's ever an instance that we need to say, listen, because you basically answered the way I would answer, why would we trust him anyway? But I'm asking the question because I think people do want to understand that if we're never, ever, right, throughout the rest of his term when he's here, able to have access to talk to him, to negotiate with him, how will we manage that? Are we continuing the legal route? What is that? Yeah, Teray, I wouldn't trust what he said anyway, but I also would like to know the path, that I know they didn't just say, we're going to disinvite him and then that's it, cut him off the list. You all have had subsequent discussions about how we accomplish our goals after we make this move, because we do know we're dealing with a personality that as soon as we put on the table, I'm not invited, y'all don't like me no more. Okay, it's wipe your hands of that. Now it's going to be the fake news NAACP. I mean, we know how this goes. So all I'm asking is, what is the follow-up and how do we move forward?
Gerald, it's a great question. Are you saying you'll never talk to him again? I mean, Lauren and I are like, you may need to talk to him, but we can't trust him anyway. So maybe we shouldn't ever talk to him. Like, is there a future posture?
There's always a future posture. And I think the easiest way to bring him back to the negotiation table is litigation. You know, he has the bully pulpit, but he's only one of the three co-equal branches of government. So he does not have all power. We have direct communications and relationships with members in the House and the Senate. And of course, we always win at the Supreme Court level. So, you know, for him to say, oh, we're the fake news NAACP, okay, prove that. We have a track record of 116 years and you have a track record of how many lawsuits? How many times have you been caught with your own fake news? And so I think that the position the NAACP has taken is a historical, strong step to send a message to say no. This may be the first time in his life that he's heard the word no. And if he wants to come back and have a conversation with us, the courthouses are open 24/7 and the House of Congress is open. We have a lot of tools at our disposal. We've been doing it for 116 years, and we're prepared for this president, whichever route he goes.
I think that Trump has heard no many times from the women who he forced himself on, but he just didn't listen to the no. But your faith in the court system and the Supreme Court in this moment is not shared by me. And we see a corrupt court system that seems to be making decisions that are shocking all of us. And even the Supreme Court seems to be not even in a reasonable state of mind. So I can't go forward with you. I'm like, well, we'll just handle him in the court. We'll see in the court. We got the Supreme Court. Like that does not vibe with the newspapers that I'm reading.
Well, see, that's why the newspaper don't understand how litigation works. And the main issue is if Thurgood Marshall put his confidence in not the court, but in the law to end segregation with a more conservative court. President Eisenhower was asked what his one mistake was, and he said he's sitting on the Supreme Court. The Earl Warren Court was the most conservative court, and it became the Civil Rights Court because of the litigation of the LDF and Thurgood and the NAACP. So it's not that we trust the justices, we trust the law, and the law is what it is. Donald Trump can write any executive order he wants, but we still have the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. We still have the Civil Rights Acts. And so what we're saying is we are ready to litigate, and we know that we will win.
Wow. Okay. I wish I shared your confidence that the justice system will do the things that they are supposed to do. And obviously, I wish you Godspeed, and I want you to win because your victory is my victory. I just don't share your confidence at this moment. But go out there and win and prove me wrong and come back on the show and tell me, look, we won here, here, and here. I would love to be wrong, especially on this issue. But I want to move on to our main topic because it's I want to give Dimitri one chance to get in this conversation actually before we move on to the main topic, because I do want to hear you. Because Dimitri, when it was Black Lives Matter in the forefront, I was like, I think their vibe, their tactics, their whole thing fits with your sort of vibe and your generation. I wonder if you feel like the NAACP is anachronistic for you and your generation, or are they still important in a world where BLM is here?
I think still important for sure. I think it's about knowledge and knowing. I think the biggest takeaway for me is we miss out on the idea of how powerful hope is and how powerful this can provide hope to our generation. People without hope are essentially powerless or become powerless. And I know a lot of old heads going to be like, oh, we still have to be diplomatic, but diplomacy also needs dignity. And for my people, this is just hope for us, because every time a president get in, we always treat it like this is some press kit that they got to have. They got to have the NAACP speech. They got to have the black churches. They got to have the black, votes and all these things. But it's not always that case. So for us, I just see hope, and that's what I'm proud of. So it's a start.
Gerald, love having you on the show. Same point to you. Do you look at Black Lives Matter and the way that they approached the problems that Black people have it was an entirely different approach to the Black community's problems than the NAACP has or has had. How do you feel about that? Do you guys learn from them? Do you grow from them? Do you say we're on a different plane than you guys?
Do we learn from them? We're 116 years old. I'm sorry, Gerald. I'll tell you back in, brother. Do we learn from? Go ahead, babe. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gerald.
So in order to get to 116 years old, we've been marching, we've been protesting, we've been lifting things up. I think they learn from us. And I think for them to remain relevant, they have to retool. It's not always about being out in the streets, raising Cain. Sometimes you have to go inside. You have to have an inside and outside game. I think you don't survive 116 years without being able to adjust. And so we learned that sometimes you can burn yourself out. And so I appreciate BLM's energy. I want to know what happened to that $90 million. And I also want to know how the Black community has moved forward because of the efforts that they have. We have a track record. I can go 1910, 1920, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 2000, 2010, 2020. And I can talk about what we did last week in Georgia.
Come on.
So I just think that we need to, understand that there are fads and that we
don't call it a fad, brother. Please don't call it a fad. It's not a fad. I was there. I was there. I was there at the founding in Atlanta. I know it was a founding of what?
I know many of the activists that are a part of BLM who have gone on to do other things. You cannot say the same thing for the association. The association is going to be strong. It's going to be strong in Charlotte. We're going to have a strong agenda, and we're going to continue to fight for the liberation of our people.
I know you will. I wonder if the tactics and the vibe, because you were so important in the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, all of that, without a doubt, we would not be here without the NAACP in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 100%. I just wonder where you are in this moment and the challenges we have right now with Trump and police brutality, police violence, mass incarceration. I don't feel you now, and I want to. I want to feel everybody. BLM, NAACP, and I don't feel you. I want to feel you. I want to feel. I see you. I hear what Dr. B talks about and the pride she has in the NAACP community that she has. But I want to feel you. I want to feel you. Gerald, I am so honored and happy to have you on the show. Will you come back this week?
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to continue this conversation because the NAACP is, of course, important. And, of course, BLM has learned from NAACP 100%. But there's more to the conversation. But thank you so much, Gerald. Let me move on to the main topic because this is a really important topic. I want to spend some time on this. Why do so many Black families want to ignore the doctor? We skip doctor visits. We silence mental health struggles. Sometimes we mistake strength for neglect. And I want to dive into the generational trauma, the cultural pride or stubbornness, the deep distrust that keeps us from getting the health that we need. Because we have family members and elders who suffer in silence, not wanting to get medical care. And we're like, why do so many Black families treat illness like a weakness that is not to be discussed and dealt with? Let's take a look at this video.
From education to employment, income to home ownership, African Americans endure a range of inequalities. But the gaps in health and wellness might be the most ominous of all these disparities.
For too many of us, our primary health care comes in emergency rooms. Instead of preventive care, we're in catastrophic care.
African American men who, at an alarming rate, have been diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Health disparities between Black women and white women are well documented.
Did you know that African Americans are almost twice as likely to have diabetes?
I would have to say, just based off of the patient population that I've experienced, during my time here in Minnesota in my professional career, and even in residency, we as African Americans will present one for later stages for cancers, more malignant forms of hypertension, uncontrolled diabetes, overweight. There's also some resistance to the whole health culture.
Mental health issues are real, and we have to understand that we can't pray away everything.
Your health transfers over into other parts of your life. If you're sick, you can't go to work. So in terms of the economy, so it's kind of a ripple effect.
That's so powerful and it's so real. Doc, we talk about the Tuskegee syphilis experiment among our communities. It's just a shorthand. We just say Tuskegee. And we know for many decades, they allowed these Black men to have untreated syphilis just to see what would happen. What an amazing dehumanization of them. And quite often when we go into the hospital, we are seen as less. There is an opinion in the medical community that Black people feel pain differently. Like we have higher pain thresholds than other people, which is bananas. And Serena Williams had an amazing conversation about that. So let's talk about this notion of we are distrustful of the medical community, Doc, but quite often there's good self-protective reason for that.
100%. We have healthcare racism. Let's not act like we don't, right? That is super systemic. When we're talking about systemic healthcare racism is real. We are overdiagnosed and we are underdiagnosed. We are underdiagnosed when it comes to dementia, when it comes to a lot of mental health issues, and we are overdiagnosed when it comes to ADHD and when it comes to depression and things of that sort. And we are over-medicated. Oftentimes, we are used as the guinea pigs after the medication is already created for treatment, but we are not used in the studies to create the medication. So when medication is developed for treatment, it's not developed for anyone Black or white woman. It's developed for white and male, even the mental health industry. And so by the time we are medicated, they have no recollection or no studies or education on how it's going to affect our anatomy and our body. We are different and we are built different. And that this health competency is something that is part of the culture competence I talk about. They don't have competence on how things show up on us, nor do they have diagnosis that fit us. We are mapped and grouped in a diagnosis based on criterions that are studied for Caucasian people, which we are not. One. Two, when we talk about pain, right? And we talk about our level of that, we have Dr. James Sims, who developed the speculum for women, who the way and it was metal back then, now we have plastic. The way that he developed the speculum was he performed pap smears on Black women with no consent and with no pain medication. No pain medication. And I just want to say Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy are just three of the Black women whose names I want to say loud because I want to give them a voice and I want to give them representation for undergoing that pain. And not only was this a white doctor who was performing this medical procedure on them, but they're surrounded by 5, 6, 7, 8 white male physicians, right? And observers who are observing them in the most vulnerable state that they can be in, possibly with no pain medication, with metal speculums, not plastic, metal speculums. A speculum, just to give our viewers a little bit of a visual. Speculum is something that goes inside a woman's vagina. It enters like this. I want you to see this. And it opens up like this inside her vagina. I want you to see this. Opening up her cervix area with no type of pain medication. Well, this lady is sitting there with her legs cocked wide open. This is like beyond abuse, beyond racism. This is going on, in my opinion. This is sexual abuse. This is stripping a woman of everything. And so when you take that into modern, I'll wrap on this. When you take that into modern health racism, you got doctors that come in there and they see that you are a person of color and they can give two shits. And their care for you goes from a 10 to a -0. Their interest in what your symptoms are go from a 10 to a -0. And if you don't have symptoms, then what are you treating? You're not treating a person, you're treating symptoms. And when a medical physician starts to treat a person, that's when racism enters into the space, which has no space for healthcare.
You're absolutely right that medical racism is very real, and it plays into the thing we've been talking about Black people's pain being treated differently than white people's pain, and the misdiagnosis we get because of the bias against our bodies. Wanda Sykes had some really interesting comments about that in one of her stand-up specials where she was talking about her double mastectomy and what happened to her in the hospital. Let's take a look at the video of Wanda.
And handle this pain. Let me give you this. Let me give you these opioids. Get that pain away. They don't give us the opioids. They're like, you can take it. Walk it off. I had a double mastectomy. You know what they sent my Black ass home with? Ibuprofen. Shit, to get some opioids, a Black person will have to show up in the emergency room holding their own head detached from the body. Excuse me, can I get some help out here?
Dimitri, what's coming up for you?
I don't know who draws these topics up, but they get me every time. I had an uncle who had a pain in his chest for about maybe 3 days. And for 3 days, he going around just whispering it to the family. He may have whispered to 2 of his closest friends, and that came out after the fact. But my uncle is no longer with us for that exact reason. My uncle died. That one pain, he saw it turned into a blocked artery, which eventually led to cardiac arrest, which is something, and I get it. I get the fact that obviously you look at the numbers and you see Black people die younger and everything. I get that they don't truly understand our pain. I get it. They don't truly care about our pain. And sometimes we ignore it, but sometimes we ignore ourselves a little too often as well. I think generationally, we've been taught that you got to be strong and you got to wear like a shield and you got to do this and X, Y, Z. That so much to the fact that we can literally kill ourselves. Like my uncle taught me a lot, but my uncle also taught me that unintentionally, not trying to, in death. Like, and it's crazy to me because we sit and we suffer in silence, but like, why can't we live long enough to heal? I think that's the strength behind it all. And I think far too often we brushing this shit aside, and because a heart attack is not just what killed my uncle. It's not. It's cultural silence that killed my uncle. And,
you're right that the cultural silence and the pride that typically exists in Black men and also in Black women, but the stoicism, especially of Black men, where we're not supposed to share our pain. We're not supposed to admit that something is bothering us. And that goes exactly to the sort of message that your uncle had been getting about, like, don't be a burden to other people, suck it up, it'll go away. And it didn't. And that, I mean, the implications were the silence led to his death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so powerful. And it makes me think about always in my world, I go back to the historical connection to this thought process, right? We were not allowed sick days on plantations. Being sick or sickly means our value would be decreased and we could be discarded easy. From a people trying to survive, we often had different ways of handling our pain. And it wasn't to go tell someone, especially a white person, that we were in pain. We did it within our communities. We often had our herbal remedies that came from our ancient ancestors, those who came before us, and the way we doctored and healed ourselves before we ever came to this country. I think there's two things at work. I also will say this. I had an opportunity to visit the old slave mart in Charleston, South Carolina a few years ago. And it was so powerful to read the accounts of our ancestors who had been enslaved and sold. And one of the stories I will never forget is something that connects us to Black people today. The process of oiling ourselves up, right? You know, there's always a joke in the Black community. We always got to have our oil on. We got to be shining. And I never really knew that where that came from. I'm thinking because our parents valued us being moisturized. No, it was because back in the day when you were on that slave block, you didn't want to look sickly. Because if you look strong, if your children look strong, you had bargaining power. This was one of the most powerful things I've learned is that Black people weren't just being sold off. And no, we were also in that process begging. If you take me, right? If I'm a healthy Black man and I can lift and move and I have carpenter skills and I can also build irrigation systems, I'm trying to tell somebody, take me and my family and look what I can do. And she can do this and she can cook and she can do this. There's a lot to
Where did you learn this? I've never heard this. Where did you learn this?
It's on the walls of the old slave mart in Charleston, South Carolina. There is a place, of actual setting where they sold enslaved Africans, and there were accounts. And one of the things they talked about was one of the things when you went to the mart, there was a part of that. Sometimes it was even almost, I wouldn't say we didn't have bargaining power, but if you know what I mean, it's a way for us to look like we were of value. Yeah. Because if we weren't, that's an easy way to be discarded, to be killed, to be hanged. Where were we going on plantations if we didn't feel well and couldn't pick our lot of whatever the crop was today? So I say this to say that this is a long-standing thing. The last thing I will say is that as we look through our sharecropper history and move forward, most of us cannot afford to take a day off of work to be at the doctor. I don't know if you all have made doctor's appointments lately, but as me at my 55 years of age, if I call now, they talking about I got to go to the doctor on October 22nd. Well, how in the world do I know whether I'm going to be able to go to the doctor on October 22nd? I don't even know if I'm going to be free that day. Can I take off work? There's so many factors that lead us to this place. Although all of you are right, we do need to be preventative other than reactionary. But there's an entire system and an entire historic it's almost it's a web that we've lived through that make us not trust medical professionals and make us not in position to spend all day at the doctor.
I just want to note quickly that Black clearly don't crack, because I did not expect the sister to say 55. Like, God damn. You said 35.
Not crack. But it doesn't crack. And my sis, Judge Lauren, is forever gorgeous and beautiful. And it is. And that's going to stay that way. But I'm going to pivot really quick, because I want to say this quickly, because it's a duality between, as a Black race of people, we have to stop being resistant to medical treatment while advocating for ourselves and each other. Why do I say that? And we also have to understand the importance of support. I'll make the story short and quick without getting too emotional. My father had prostate cancer that metastasized into bone cancer. So he died technically from prostate cancer. Why did it metastasize? Because he took too long to treat it. And by the time he did get diagnosed, he had a conversation with me that said, look, I don't want to get treatment. And I feel selfish because I have 6 kids. But if I don't get treatment, I die sooner. If I get treatment, I live longer, but I don't live in a good quality of life. How do you feel about it? And I explained to him, I love you as your oldest daughter. Whatever makes you have the best quality of life in your last years, I support you. Let's rock and roll. But what happened is my father was sneaking and going to the doctors, and he wasn't telling us. I found out his doctor's appointment by going into his medical records, and I showed up. And as I showed up to Kaiser Permanente, he was walking, and he saw my car, and he jumped, and he said, "What are you doing here?"
The Bentley?
I was in G-Wagon. But as I got to park, he said, "What are you doing here, baby?" I said, "What do you mean? You're my father. I'm coming to the doctors with you." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "I'm not only coming to the doctors with you, but I'm going in the room with you as well." And there's no negotiation. So as we got into the lobby, they called his name, and he's looking at me like, "You're not coming in." I'm looking at him like it would be hell and hot water. I'm coming in. And as I sat there with my father, and every time the doctor asked him something, I noticed that my father looked over to me for a head nod, for support, or for something that let him know this is the right decision or it's not. When we got into the pharmacy, my dad looked at me to get his medication because he would not accept it until I went with him. And I said, "Daddy, let's just get the medication. You could decide not to take it if you don't want to later. Let's just get it in case you decide." He looked at me and he said, "Baby, I want to ask you to never stop being the way you are. I want you to make sure that you continuously always show up."
Where's the tissues?
Hold on.
Where's the tissues?
Let me tell you why. He said, "Because it wasn't until you showed up to this doctor's appointment with me and I seen you advocate and fight for me the way you did, that it gave me hope and gave me another up to want to fight and figure out how I can fight this thing and live longer." What am I saying? What I'm saying is that too many times, yes, Black women, but Black men are undergoing stress and healthcare issues by themselves, Black boys and Black men. And we have to do better. Whatever race you are as a woman or as a people, if you have a friend that's Black, a father that's Black, we're supporting them. And sometimes that looks like showing up when they say no. It looks like having a voice for them when they can't. It looks like advocating for them. I would never take back that moment when I seen him look at me and go, why is she here? But this is just such, in his head, I knew he was thinking, this is just such like my daughter. And I bombarded the whole damn thing. But it may have not saved his life, but it gave my father the support that I believe he had at the beginning and allowed me to do and us to do. I really believe it would have gave him a shift in his mindset on the choices he made in treatment. And so, again, I want everyone to just understand, I'll wrap on this. Yes, we need to not be resistant to medical treatment, but we also have to make sure that we don't listen to a no when we know someone is sick. We don't listen to "I'm okay." There are times where it's okay to break through that door and say, "Listen, whether you like it or not, I'm going to sit with you while you cry. Whether you like it or not, I'm going to make that doctor's call with you. I'm showing up to the doctors with you. And if I got to hold your hand, you don't want to take the treatment, I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to support you until you take your last breath or until you make a better decision," because it's really important.
That was a really beautiful, powerful story. And I'm going to hold on to that as my mom continues to age and as the people around me continue to age, that sometimes we need to be an invasive force of love and presence of like you said, like, I'm going to sit with you whether you want it or not. I'm going to come to your like, that was really beautiful. I can see your dad like, "What are you doing here?" But then he like knows like, I kind of knew you'd show up eventually because I know how you are, shy. Like, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. I really do need some tissues. Dimitri, go get me some tissues. I want to make you guys cry even more with this tragic story of this sister, Adriana Smith, a young pregnant sister who was declared brain dead back in February. But because of Georgia's abortion laws, where they can't end the pregnancy, they had to keep her alive for months before they could deliver the baby, who came out 1.5 pounds. It's a tragic story. Get more Kleenex. Get the whole box. Let's run this video.
April, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I want to ask first, how are you doing?
I'm doing as well as possible. It's a very, very tough situation for me and my family. It's just unbelievable, and we have a lot of emotions. So it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot.
You had some new information. We had a new addition to the family come just last week. Adriana's son was born.
Yes. Chance was born by emergency C-section on Friday about 4:41 a.m. And he's fighting. He's in the NIC unit. He's about 1 pound, 13 ounces. And he's expected to be okay. He's just fighting. Yeah. We just want prayers for him. Yeah. Just keep praying for him. He's here now.
That was the mother of the sister who passed away. So the grandmother of this 1.5 pound baby is, Dimitri knows the baby's supposed to be around 7-8 pounds. So that is a teeny tiny freebie. They say that the baby, the boy, should pull through, but God only knows what's going to happen to him coming out so early, coming out so small. He's missed really important moments of development. And of course, he's missing his mother. You know, I mean, he has his grandmother who loves him and is clearly putting her life aside for him. But my God, he's missing his mother. And this is insane. And you see the way that the woman, Lauren, loses control of her body in the way that Republicans want to do abortion.
Are you coming to me? I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm still trying to get my tears back. Doc worked me up. I was trying to hold it back. Then the story came on. I'm like, Lauren, pull it together now. Take deep breaths. This is a very difficult case because this beautiful baby is here fighting for its life. And now this family, right, is mourning the loss of their daughter, but now trying to figure out how to best take care of this baby. As I have researched, I don't see where the medical fund that was provided by the state, where is it? Is it there? And any of us who have been through medical issues with family members or with ourselves know how absolutely positively financially it's the destruction is just, people don't understand. And while I understand that the baby's life at this point is our most important thing that we need to be focused on, I think this entire cycle that we've watched happen it's a tale that we need to be very careful that will continue to occur if we don't get out and pay attention to what we're doing politically, make sure we're out on those polls. I hate to take it back to that, but you guys, this is scary. I think about the long lasting effects of this child. And you know, like I said, I'm trying to get my thoughts together because I'm also holding back tears because I had an emergency C-section. So that feeling of that moment where it's you're in a natural process and then the hospital takes over. Now, while I was not in the position of this beautiful young woman where I lost my life, trust me, in that moment, I didn't know if I would or if I wouldn't, right? Because of what we talked about in our last segment, the mistrust and not understanding. When those lights start flashing and people start moving fast and you need this and the baby's heart is dropping and you gotta go here. You don't know if you're coming out. And as a mother, I didn't know. I just hope that my baby did. And thank God we were both okay. But this is so scary. I don't really have a great word to say.
There was a moment when you didn't know if you would make it?
No. I didn't know because of, as we talked about in the last segment, when the machine takes over, and trust, I don't want to demonize the medical profession because they're amazing doctors, but there's a moment, if you've ever been in the hospital for anything, and I had never been a person that ever stayed in the hospital overnight for anything. I've never even broken an arm or a leg. So me giving birth to my son was my very first experience in the hospital. And when I had my plan, and I'm going to have a natural birth, and the family can be in the room, and you write your plan. And the next thing you know, everything starts going to plan, and you're hearing everything you say, how they, in record numbers, they give Black women C-sections, right? And that's not always the healthy thing to do. And then they're calling for the emergency C-section, and you're trying to say, is it really an emergency? And then they're shooting you with the epidural, and then they're getting you ready. And you got these people, and if you're like me, where I'm trying to figure everything out, and then I realize in that moment, I'm almost helpless.
Yeah.
They're about to do to me what they feel they need to do to me. Yeah. And it is fearful. It is scary as hell. And everybody's putting on the bonnets. And my husband, CJ's dad, is getting dressed, and my dad runs out, and he's too scared. Oh God. And you don't know if you're coming out. Yeah. And I think people don't really understand that as women, especially as Black women. Because a lot of times where we're giving birth or where we are, not everyone there looks like us or maybe values us. You don't know. You don't know.
We see here Black women, pregnancy-related deaths, way off the charts. White women, 13 per 100,000. Black women, 40. I mean,
And can I just say this one last point? Because I want to bookend it with something, because I think it's important. Because of that, that's why for me, often, we don't want to stay in the hospital. And that's also sometimes contrary to our health needs. And we need to be cognizant of that. And I would love to do more shows on medical advocacy, because when I had that C-section, the rule was when you could walk around the hospital unit pushing your baby, you could be released.
Right.
I did that within 36 hours after I gave birth, because I wanted to leave.
Wow.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that was contrary to my health, but I'm just being very honest here. I wanted to leave.
Lauren, because this is happening in Georgia and it's a legal issue, I want to bring back in Gerald Griggs, attorney, Georgia native, president of the NAACP in Georgia. So you're just speaking to this issue in so many different ways. I just wonder what this story brings up for you. This sister who's forced by their abortion law to have a 1-pound baby, the neurological and physical issues that this baby will have through its childhood, God only knows. It's a horrendous story for the family, but it's also extremely frightening. And it's not only happening to this family.
Absolutely. And this is the third African-American female in the last year that we've heard about this. Amber Thurman, Candy Miller, and now Adriana Smith. And my heart goes out to her family to go through this type of horrific experience that could have been prevented. Georgia is one of the few states in the nation that has a draconian six-week abortion ban. And there's been litigation around that to stop this. And for the governor and the attorney general to tell the hospital that the abortion ban has nothing to do with this is the actual reason why the hospital kept her on life support, so they would not violate the law and be subject to criminal prosecution and civil sanctions. And Black maternal mortality is through the roof in the state of Georgia. Like I said, I just named 3 women in the last year, 2 of which are national cases. And now Adriana has gotten into that same atmosphere. And so we want to continue to support her family. They do have a GoFundMe they've set up. It's made over $400,000 to be able to support.
How do we find that GoFundMe?
You said what?
How do we find the GoFundMe?
You just search Adriana Smith, and I'll give you the link on the internet. But this family is already incurring millions of dollars in medical bills, and this young baby who's now in the NIC unit, as somebody who has experienced a child being in the NIC unit, someone who's experienced an emergency C-section. Waking up 2:00 in the morning, my wife is coding or whatever that noise was, and I'm having to put on clothes, and we go down there and they start the medical procedures. This is one of the scariest moments of my life as a Black man, as a father. And so we have to lift this family up, and we have to do something about these laws, because a woman should have bodily autonomy. And in many southern states and around the country, that is just not a fact that they have anymore. And so, in Georgia, we lift up this family, but we have to remember this is preventable. This should have never happened.
Yes.
And now we have a child that will grow up without his mother, because of the laws here in the state of Georgia.
And you wonder how many people, Cheyenne, that we don't even hear of that this happens to. But go on, what are you thinking about?
I just wanted to, what my sis, Judge Lauren, said as far as a C-section, Black women are 40% more likely to be forced into C-section. Studies have found that many of those C-sections could have been natural births, and that they're doing it because C-sections pay more when it comes to billing insurance, which again is negligence. And we have attorneys on the show today, and it is a huge lawsuit if that is proven to be the reason for having someone be forced into a C-section. Black women die 3 to 4 times are more likely to die giving birth than white women. And so when you look at those studies and those stats, yeah, you're damn right that you have Black women who are, like Judge Lauren said, afraid not only just to go to the doctors, but ain't trying to stay overnight. My mother had back surgery. One day, the next day I go, she all of a sudden has a blood clot in her lungs. Why is it that she has blood clots in her lungs? Why is it that her room is the only room that has trash cans and trash? Oh, I went fucking bananas in that hospital. And when I say fucking bananas, to the point where they end up having it to where my mama was able to come home and they sent a physician home to take care of her in our house because I went crazy with lawsuits, with NAACP letterheads of call of actions and issues that we have. But this goes back to the point I made with my father. Advocacy. We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to advocate for our family members. We have to advocate for our loved ones. You have to have somebody who's in there in a sane mind that can say, this is some bullshit. This is not okay. This is negligence. And why is it that this room is not up to care? Why is it that you have a person here who has let's just say who has staph infection with a person who doesn't, when we know staph is something that is completely contagious and can kill somebody? You have to have folks in there who advocate. Within our Black community, we are very, very supportive on a lot of things. But when it comes to the healthcare and medical treatment, we don't always know how to advocate. We always feel like we are not in the position to advocate, and we feel like we are at the hands of the doctor. We have the right to say, absolutely no, I'm not going to receive that care. I have more questions before you provide that injection or that care or that longevity of stay for my child. Absolutely fucking not. I have more questions. I want a second opinion. I want a third person in this room. And I want you to make it clear to me what you're treating. What are the results of it? What are the side effects of it? And what does this look like for aftercare? We don't ask questions, and we're not advocating for each other.
These are important questions, Dimitri. We also have to understand that the doctors are told you're only supposed to spend a certain amount of time with each patient. So they are on the clock as soon as they walk in your room and expected to move on to the next room very quickly. So the conversation that Doc is saying that we should have, she's right, but the doctors don't want to have it because they are being told, move on. And they get a little, quite often, imperious and aggressive. I also want to call out, again, Dr. Bryant with the aggressive love. I appreciate it. I love it. She's like, I'm going to love you no matter what. But Dimitri, I don't really want to go to the doctor. I mean, you can call me an old Black man if you want, but she might have bad news. I work out. I take a protein shake every morning. Like, I feel fine. Like, why go risk her? How do you and other people your generation feel about do you like the medical racism we've talked about? Does that prevent you from wanting to go to the doctor, or are you guys on a different mindset?
You take your protein shake. I'm gonna take my ass to the doctor. I'm at the doctor every time I can be because I've witnessed what happens when you don't. I've witnessed, and that's not a generational thing I want to push on my son. Tell him, be strong. Oh, you'll figure it out. Oh, it'll heal. Oh, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Although that may be true, I'm going to put my faith in the one who's going to prescribe me something. And I get it. Yes, a lot of times you feel like, I ain't going to say a lot of times, more often than not, you feel like they don't actually relate or they don't actually care or understand our pain. I get it. But for me, even in terms of the maternity thing, I can speak to it directly. Like my generation is starting to push towards at-home pregnancies. There's this company called Pregnancy Pool where the husband get in there, the mother get in there, and we starting to feel like that's a lot safer than being in the hospital. Because this baby was 1 pound. My son came out 9 pounds.
That's huge. That is huge. That is huge, baby.
You know, and yeah, he's
how
big.
tall are you? How you have a 9 pound baby?
Huh?
You not tall? How you have a 9 pound baby?
Boy, you ain't seen me. I'm kind of, you know what I'm saying, like that. But the thing about it is, he came out at 9. This baby came out at 1.
But Dimitri, when my son was coming out, feet first, he started to poop, and then he came out, and then he started to swallow the poop, right? And then the doctors dealt with that. And there's a beauty in the at-home pool delivery. But what if you have some complication like that? Because if the baby swallows the poop, that is a serious problem for the baby. There's all sorts of complications with the umbilical cord. There's all sorts of things that could happen. I would be afraid to give birth without a nurse or doctor.
The thing about it is, with this company and these people, there are doctors on standby who actually participate in these pregnancies. So it's not like we just at home wilding. Like we ain't doing it out the tub. This is actual medical practices. It's just now in the center of your home. And I think, because my son came out with complications as well. For the first, I think maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes, my son wasn't breathing at all. So I literally watched someone walk in and have to demonstrate something on my son, who's purple at the time. You know what I'm saying? And I remember looking out the window, and I'm looking out the window of the hospital room, and I say, dear God, if I've never asked you for anything, don't do this to her. Don't do this to the mother. I saw his mother. I saw the baby. I saw everybody in his room crying except for me. And it was like, that's what the hospital don't understand. That's what the hospital they don't understand. That human trauma you got to leave this hospital with. And for so many people, it wears on you for a lifetime. And I think for me, what people don't truly understand in this case, this is a law that is meant to protect. All laws are meant to protect. This woman died in slow motion because of a law that now turned her from a person to an incubator. Yes. Like, and I don't understand if people truly get how crazy this is. And the fact that it's happened before, the fact that we witnessed things like this, I just think, in my opinion, we got to, I know we can't trust them and the shit's difficult, but you got to do what's best for you. My heart goes out to the family, but this is a trauma they'll have to live with forever. And that baby is going to have to live without a mother. And knowing there's a lot of guilt attached to things like that. And I'm gonna end it there, but in that baby's sake, please, if you're around the family, check on the family, please throw the GoFundMe up. I want to support as well. But this is tough.
Wait, Troy, I want to say something really quick to Dimitri. I want to tell you thank you. And I love you because you were the only person on here besides, of course, Judge Lauren as a woman who didn't make it all about the baby. Now, we know the baby matters, but you actually considered the mama. You actually said the trauma that it would have had on your child's mother. And one thing I hear women across the board, this is not a race thing, this is a woman thing, say that once they push that baby out, all care goes to the baby. There's women that go into shakes and shivers and things that happen with their body. And there's usually no one side by them to say, hold on, what is it that you need besides blankets and then being warm? So I want to tell you thank you because you made it. Yes, it's about the baby, but this woman just psychologically, physically went through an entire metamorphosis and has become a different woman within seconds. So thank you for acknowledging us women because it is definitely a hardship on us and the baby as well. So thank you for that.
Sure. Right after she has the baby, she needs care and attention and rest as well. And entering the most busy moment of her life, the newborn baby. Lauren, last words on any quick legal advice for folks who are in a complicated situation with a doctor like the ones we're talking about?
I think what you've heard Dr. B talk about is so important. If possible, please have someone by your side, someone there that can take. I am a big believer in writing notes. from your entire experience when you're going through any type of medical treatment, if someone can keep a running note of which doctor came in to see you, what they had to say, which questions you were asked, do not be afraid. They're online and they're talking about it all the time in different places. If you're going in for a certain situation, these are the questions you should ask. Don't be afraid to do a little research so you have questions that you want to ask. I know when my mother was in the hospital for her breast cancer, I can't tell you how many times tired doctors came in and started to examine the wrong breast. And it was no. And I had to be, because I was in the room, and similar to Doc with the aggressive love, I slept in there. I never left her. But that's also a privilege. Let's be clear that many don't have, where I could stop everything I did and literally live in that hospital with my mother, where I had to kind of correct no. And I would often have to gently say, you guys go on back out, read the chart again and come back in, because the stress of that is even stressful for a patient. So I say that if you can have a person that can be there by your side to be able to take notes. And if you have a question, do not be fearful to consult a lawyer. That's what they're here for. If you have a question, maybe this don't look right to me. This doesn't feel right. I don't feel like my family member is being handled fairly or was handled fairly. I need to seek legal representation to make sure my rights were not, or my loved ones' rights were not infringed upon. So just that's the short end, but I would love to talk more about this because we throw around advocacy, but I think that's something that most people really don't know how to do, because there's a process to advocacy, because you also don't want to alienate the caregiver, because there are some good ones out there. You're working in partnership with your medical professional. And that's another thing.
I think that was really beautifully said and really important. And I think that in general, Black families are not ignoring medical needs out of neglect.
No.
We're responding to a healthcare system that has been historically ignoring us, that has been rejecting of us. We feel the medical racism when we enter the building, when we deal with the diagnosis, when we deal with the lack of care, and it hurts and it matters. And we talk about it to each other, and it develops a lack of distrust for the entire system. This is not about medicine, really. It's a system that doesn't trust us, that we don't trust, that mistreats us, and plays into a sort of generational trauma. Black health isn't broken because we're broken. There's nothing inherently wrong with us that's not explained by white supremacy. The system is broken because the system was never meant to serve us, to take care of us, to respect us. If we're going to heal, we have to stop normalizing pain. We have to stop being stoic and quiet about our pain, demand accountability, demand what the medical system was meant to provide for us, actual good care that we deserve, that we are paying for. Make an appointment, people. If something feels wrong, if you haven't been to the doctor in a minute, if you're over 50 years old, you should be seeing a doctor at least once a year. So please take care of yourselves. The doctors are here to take care of you. If you need to find a Black doctor, do that. Okay, that's our show for tonight. Thank you to our sponsor, Kleenex, because everybody made everybody cry tonight. Dimitri, Doc, Lauren, Gerald. Oh my God, you guys brought the noise and the funk today. Comment, subscribe, and like on our YouTube channel at Truth Talks-Live. Watch us simulcasting right here on the Black Star Network after Roland Martin Unfiltered every night at 8 p.m. You can support Black media at Cash App, Truth Talks Live. Visit truthtalkslive.com to advertise or become a VIP member. Tune in every night at 8 p.m. on the East Coast and the West Coast. Support us by advertising on our show. We have 10 million unique impressions on all our social platforms. So if you want to reach a lot of intelligent and engaged Black people, Truth Talks is the place to do that. Small business and influencers can partner with us by visiting truthtalkslive.com. Thank our supporters, Juanita Motti, Kyla Carr, and Benjamin Gomes for their weekly cash support. For the truth, for Truth Talks, you want to be in our credits, hit that Cash App and show us some love. We'll be back weeknights every night at 8 p.m. on the East Coast and the West Coast. So we are here for your Truth Talks family. We'll be here tomorrow night.
Good night, y'all.